Hey, before we start the episode, this is just a reminder this episode does take place before we had changed to a strictly interview format, and as such, there may be references to the other episodes we used to do that don't have anything to do with that. You can disregard that and just enjoy the episode.
The Graphic Histories Podcast.
Hey, welcome to the Graphic Histories Podcast. My name is André, and I will be your host. And big thanks to Ukula Mock for our theme song, Superpowers. And big thanks to you, gentle listener, for tuning in once again to our 1-year anniversary show. It's hard to believe it's been an entire year since I began this little COVID project. Now we are still deep into COVID activities, but it has been a year. A year of episodes, 52 to be precise, one per week for an entire year, and I can't believe I've managed to keep up that number, that I've been able to keep that schedule, because I have a busy life. I'm a busy guy. I overextend myself quite a bit, so adding a project like this to the mix was a bit of a daunting task, but I've managed to hold on and keep it going, and if I can hold it on for a whole year, then the sky's the limit. So we've reached the end of Season 1. Season 1 has been a lot of fun. We learned a lot about a lot of characters. We met a lot of interesting comic people, had some great conversation with writers that currently work for Marvel Comics, writers that currently have independent comics on the mix, artists that have done the same, independent comics and professional comics, and people that have just been involved with comics all over. And it's been a real dream doing this job and talking to some people. Some people I've met through this, some people I've known beforehand, and getting to know all of them better has been a real joy. And I hope you've enjoyed the journey as much as me. But it's far from over. Just the first leg of a eternally legless journey is complete, and there's much more to come. So starting next week will be episode 1 of season 2 of the Graphic Histories podcast. And next week we will be talking about Sharon Carter. She has been featured in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, also prominent in the the Falcon and Winter Soldier series. And I have a theory. I don't want to announce that in case I'm wrong, in case you haven't watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier yet, but I believe, based on evidence, that she may be essentially the bad guy of the series. I don't know if that's true or not. It may be a spoiler, it may not be. I don't know at this point, because the last episode hasn't come out yet, as far as I know. I'm recording this before the Friday, so if I'm right, then that'd be sweet vindication. If I'm not, then you'll still get the great graphic history of another long-standing Marvel character that's been in and out of many important stories, mostly centered around S.H.I.E.L.D. and Captain America, but certainly a central figure in Marvel Comics for quite some time. So next week's episode will be Sharon Carter. Today's episode, however, I'm very excited to announce our guest as Mason Hal Hilden. I've known him as Hal. He goes by Mason when he does writing for books, and Hal Hilden as he does comic work. I've known Hal for quite a few years, mainly just through the convention circuit, but he's always been a really fun, down-to-earth, super nice, lovely man who's been nothing but kind and supportive to the comics industry and the people within it in this area. Supportive of, bought my comics when I had them out, buy my art prints. Just really keen to support anybody that he encounters, and just an amazing source of positivity for our scene out here on the east coast of Canada. And I was very excited to talk to him, to get to know a little bit more about his life, where he's come from, how he got to where he is, and some of the projects he's worked on, especially his Stephen Colbert biography comic, which came out a few years ago, which was super fun. Really cool little book, and we get to find out how that came to be. So without much further ado, I will go right into today's episode. So this is episode 52, our 1-year season finale with Mason Hal Hilden. If you look down in the bottom corner where it says mute, there's a little arrow, and then you can.
Oh, hi.
There you are. There.
Hey,
there he is.
You busted my Zoom cherry. This is my first for Zoom.
Really? You've never been on Zoom before now?
Dude, I'm on Facebook and that's it.
That's it?
That's it, man.
That's all you need. What do you need anything else for?
I had a Twitter account, but I think I use it there once or twice a year. That's about it.
Yeah, that's about as much as I use it. I usually just post to like do Instagram, but then like just set it to post to the other ones automatically.
Gotcha.
You know, if it wasn't for my work, like social media work, I would not be on Facebook as much as I have to be. So
yeah, gotcha.
I can totally understand the desire to stay as far away from social media as possible.
Twitter, man, that's toxic sometimes.
Sometimes. I mean, I do respect that they've taken a kind of a stand on some of the misinformation and stuff recently, and like kind of deleting people. You know, Facebook seems very like blasé with what they let people post. But Twitter, I mean, obviously Trump being one of the biggest, people that they blocked, but there's been quite a few others that they have as well. So it's nice to see there's some sort of, body in place to govern that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. How are you holding up?
Oh, good. I had an eye appointment today. My first time I had LASIK done back in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
And I had my first eye appointment today since then. And she said I had perfect eyesight for my age for a 40-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
I said, that's awesome because I'm 50. So that was pretty cool.
That's really cool. I know I considered that. I never did it. They told me my eyes were good for it, but I just never did it.
When I had it done, they put drops in your eyes to numb your eye at first.
Mm-hmm.
And the girl doing it told me it was her first day. So I'm kind of a bit worried. And as she's dropping the eye drops into my eye, she was missing. She was hitting the side of my face. So I'm trying to move my eye under. So I got the last few drops in. Then she did the other eye, and the other eye was perfect.
Yeah. So
they start doing the LASIK, and I said, like, I'm feeling this. Is this supposed to hurt? They said, Mr. Hilden, it's all in your head. André, it wasn't in my head, dude. I was there for a minute and a half while they laser scalpeled my eye, moved the retina around, whatever the hell they did.
Yeah.
I felt the whole thing.
They actually kind of like slice it and pull it back, don't they? And then use a laser to fix it.
Yeah, they kind of they change the angle of the whole shape of your eye, kind of.
Oh man, that's so weird. It's like Frankenstein weird science stuff. It's just the idea of someone just jiggering around with my eyeballs just seems really like I watch a lot of horror movies and there's a lot of stuff going in and out of eyes. And that's usually the part. Like I can watch almost anything in a movie, but when someone's fucked around with an eye or wrist gets slit, that's usually when I'm like I find that hard to watch. I don't know why, but those are the two ones.
Yeah, my wife, it's eyes. And for me, it's Achilles tendons because I ruptured mine years ago. So that's
whenever I see that clip from Pet Cemetery when they get the guy in man, that they did it in the new one too, and I was like, like it just something about it. It's something you don't think about, but when you're forced to see it right in front, oh man, it just like it's something primal deep within you that just feels that pain.
Yeah, it's funny. And when that happens, you can't run away. When your Achilles tendon is done, you're done. Like,
yeah,
that's it.
You're done. That's major surgery to fix that, if they can. It seems like such a small part of the body, but man, oh man, it's just I forgot. Dan, you just opened up a door of PTSD that I've been sitting on from Pet Cemetery.
Mine popped. I was playing softball and I was trying to turn. The outfielder bobbled the ball, so I said, "I'm going to go for a double."
Mm-hmm.
So I almost got to second base and I heard this loud pop.
Oh,
and 90% of my Achilles tendon ruptured and just broke free.
Yeah,
it was awesome. Yeah, it was only painful. It was painful for about a half an hour. Then after that, I tore the nerves all off too. So after about a half an hour, there was no pain whatsoever.
Man, that's brutal.
Yeah.
Some of my guys I work out with the gym, they've torn biceps and stuff for it, but thankfully it's never happened to me yet. But hopefully ever. Oh, there you go. You got one of those too.
Torn bicep.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So now,
So
what's the worst injury you had? I mean, I remember seeing that picture of your toe, man. That picture of that toe gives me nightmares still.
I can send it to you if you want.
Oh no, it's still there, dude. Is that the
That one
worst that's happened to
actually,
you?
that one wasn't actually so bad. That was like it was an open fracture because I mean, for those listeners who don't know, I was moving a beam from a wrestling ring. We had finished a show down in it's not there anymore, but Upper Clements Park. And I never wear sandals when I wrestle because I'm always like afraid I drop something on my foot. But it was like the hottest day of the year, and we're going to this park, and I was like, I'm just gonna wear sandals. Like I'm sure it'll be fine. And sure enough, like I dropped the beam and where it should have went, and it bounced off another beam and went right down to my toe. It broke. It broke. It was an open fracture, so the cut broke the toe as well. And when that happens, they're pretty diligent on it because of you can get infected really easily. So I had to like do the antibiotics thing and get a tetanus shot and do all that. But it was funny because I had a wrestling show I think a week later, and we kind of played it as an angle. So like we put it on the because I was a bad guy at the time, and I put it on the thing that like will the answer be able to wrestle, you know? And I mean, we put pictures of the toe and like the X-rays and stuff to show that it was broken. And then we did this match. I came out with a cane. And I told the guy that I was wrestling, like I got the mic and I said to the audience, like, you know, as it was stated, I broke my toe. It's an open fracture. I don't want to give up this opportunity because it was like for a chance to wrestle for the title later, another show. So I was like, but I'm going to do this. But I just ask, you know, on your morals to not attack my toe, like my foot. So the other guy's a good guy. And there's all these points in the match where he gets me by the foot and he lets it go, you know, because like he realizes that it's the toe. So and then later on, we did a move where I fell. And then I started grabbing my toe and I was like holding it and the ref called the match and the ref's trying to help me out of the ring. And well, they didn't call the match. They just called for help. The ref was trying to help me out of the ring. And then the good guy like is looking at me. And then the audience is kind of like, you know, they're looking and then he helps me as well. So like I had the ref and the guy I was wrestling help me out of the ring. And when they're doing that, just before we get to the ropes, because the ref's on this side and he's on the other, I low blowed him with my other foot, like hit him right in the nuts, dropped him, and then hit him with my finisher, and then pinned him for the pin. And when it was the best feeling in the world because the audience was clapping, like because they're like, oh, like he's hurt, and they're helping, like you know, they're clapping for me, and then when I hit him with the low blow, and then hit him with my finisher and pinned him, and then I was dancing around because my show was broken, but I can move, so like I was pointing at it and I was laughing at the audience, and man, it was one of the funnest experiences in wrestling I ever had.
Nothing like being the heel and beating on a baby face, right?
Especially after that, because the audience was convinced that I was hurt. They were like, well, like, what a good guy to help him. You know, this is like, you know, thanks for entertaining us. And then pulling that out it was a real joy.
That's awesome.
The worst one I ever had, I broke my nose really bad. In Newfoundland, I was wrestling, and I used to wear a mask that was made of fiberglass.
No.
I got a better one later for a different character I play sometimes. And one of the guys I was wrestling made a mistake and he clotheslined me right across the face and it just snapped my nose. Like it was all caved in on one side. It was like concave. So I had to get nose surgery in Amherst to get it fixed. Basically a nose job. But man, it was weird. Getting a nose surgery done was weird. Because I looked like the Invisible Man. I had all the bandages here, and then I had round sunglasses I wore. So like I would go out in public with a hat on and the bandages on the face, and I looked like the dude from the Invisible Man, Claude Rain. Like so
I love it.
Yeah, that was probably the worst one. I mean, I've had like, you know, hurt shoulders and hurt knees and that sort of stuff over the years, but nothing that really stayed. Like I feel good as, you know, generally healthy. So I'm supposed to have some more wrestling coming up, but I don't know. I think today I didn't check the news, but I'm pretty sure they just changed a bunch of the peeling back and locking things down again as cases are spiking in Nova Scotia. So
yeah, I saw that. Wow.
Yeah, you guys just got pulled back. It was supposed to be like another month before New Brunswick could join with
something like that. Yeah, because to our I guess the west side of Nova Scotia or New Brunswick, they've been in orange lockdown for a month or so now.
Yeah, I think Edmundston area is getting most of the cases here.
Yeah,
so where are you at? You're in Miramichi area?
No, St. John.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we got 5 or 6 cases here right now in St. John.
Well, that's not so bad. You guys are keeping it locked down.
Oh yeah, and I'm like a freaking hermit, man. I leave the house now on Sundays to go to the flea market and sell stuff. That's about it.
Oh yeah.
Get my eyes tested, and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Yeah, and my wife works from home, so that's it, man. We're safe.
Yeah, good, man. Good to hear it.
Stay hidden.
So, are you from that area originally, or?
I was born in Digby.
Oh, so you're a Nova Scotian.
Yeah, dad was in the military, so I was an army brat till I was 12.
Huh.
Then dad got out of the military and became a police officer in Ontario, and I graduated in spring of or whatever. Summer of '89. I graduated in Ontario. Then we moved to St. John, where dad's from. Dad's from St. John because his father was passing away of cancer. So dad kind of wanted to make amends.
Yeah.
His
Did he have a
father
strained
wasn't.
relationship with his father?
Yeah, his father was a nasty man. Yeah, he was alcoholic, abusive, and stuff. Anyway, dad gave up on the police force and went to be with him for a while, and they kind of straightened a few things out. And one good thing is I met my future wife, Stacy, in the fall of '89. We've been together since 1989.
Really?
My wife and I.
How did she put up with you for so long?
She takes a lot of meds. A lot of meds. Alcohol meds, yeah.
Oh, no, Stacy's a wonderful person. That's I didn't know you guys together that long. That's crazy.
89, yeah. Our first date, we went and saw Michael Myers.
Halloween?
I forget which one it was though.
Oh, it would have been like the fourth one, maybe by that point.
Yeah, I think at the end he got captured by like special forces guys or something.
Five. That was 5.
Yeah, something like that.
5 or 6. That was the one where they tried to like establish. I was actually just talking to someone about this like a few hours ago, but that's the one they tried to establish that there was some kind of a cult or something that he was a part of, which is why he's compelled to kill his family. It was like some old curse or something that he was like the last in line of Sam Hain or something that was connected to the original Halloween. Like they really tried to connect it to Halloween in these weird ways, but that's cool.
Yeah, it was a first date. Then one of our other big dates was in the spring the following year. And I found out that Stacy loves wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Oh, excellent!
Local wrestling, and I've been a fan of Grand Prix wrestling since I could barely walk. So we go see wrestling at the Lord Beaverbrook rink in St. John here, and I'm sitting with her, and I know her pretty well, but she starts friggin' cursing and yelling at the wrestlers, like Bulldog Bob Brown and all of them are there, eh? And she's cursing at him, and I'm like, what the hell have I got into? This chick's crazy, eh? So she's yelling at him and having a great old time, and he points over at me and says, "Hey, you the boyfriend?" And I'm like paralyzed, right? And Stacy says, "Yeah, he is." He says, "After the match, I'm going to kick your ass."
I'm just trying to watch the show. I'm not part of this.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome.
Well, that's the joy of wrestling to me. Like, there's a lot of joys that come with wrestling, but one of them is that people lose themselves. They just have fun like that. Like it's what it is, but it's just fun to lose yourself to the sort of the mystique of it and just get in the character and mouth off to people and yell, and it's a hoot. It's really fun.
The story. Sometime when we're not doing this, if we're doing something else, the stories I can tell you about some of the early Grand Prix wrestling matches I've seen. Just incredible, man. Just insane.
Man, you've been around for a lot of it, I'd say.
Oh man, look, I got autographs. I got Candy Divine's autograph.
Oh, that's a deep cut.
I got Bobo Brazil's autograph. I got Bulldog Bob Brown's autograph.
I got a few of those. A cousin of mine sent me. He was cleaning out something, and he asked if I wanted them. He mailed them to me. It was like, actually, they're right here. That's funny. That the Cowboy Johnny Fargo.
Yep.
And Leaping Lanny.
I've got that exact one.
Leaping Lanny. I actually wrestled Lanny before.
You did not.
I did twice. Yeah. And I think there's Johnny Cowboy, I think it was Jim the Hammer Valentine's old gimmick when he was in the Grand Prix. What's this one? It's one of those. Oh, it's Lanny again.
Oh, look at this. Look.
There it is. One. There it is. That's funny.
Roof.
I should send, I'm still in contact with him. I should send him this, and I think you get a kick out of it for sure.
Great Malumba, a whole crew of them, man. Little
that was Greg the Hammer Valentine. That's Johnny Fargo. Yeah.
Greg the Hammer Valentine was Johnny Fargo. I didn't know that.
Pretty sure.
Wow.
So Dad was in the military.
Yes.
And then it's funny because doing this for the year, actually, not that you need to be congratulated, but this is my year episode. So it's literally been a year. So you're my esteemed guest, which is cool. But awesome. Yeah, like several people that I've interviewed, parents have been either because Ed Brisson's dad was a cop, and I think it was Andrews wasn't, but there was somebody else that was a copper and a bunch of military, a lot of moving around military families. So I wonder if there's some kind of sort of connection to people that are really into comics with being in a situation where you probably moved around a lot. So, comics would be a stable that you can get in any town you go to. So it'd be a constant, in an ever evolving sort of changing life like that.
I was gonna that was one thing I wrote down. I wanted to mention to you that comics were a big part of my life as a kid because Dad would get reposted every couple of years, so I'd have to make new friends. Mm-hmm. So in the meantime, I'd have my comic books, and a lot of times comic books make friends with comic books.
Yeah,
it was nothing for me as a kid to roll a comic book up, put it in my back pocket, and take it to school, meet some new kids, show the comic, Spider-Man team up or whatever it was, and just make friends that way.
What were the? No, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you.
Toys and stuff as well. Dad had I like Star Wars toys when they all came out, and the little Battlestar Galactica figurines that had the little ships and stuff way back when. I had all that stuff, but Dad always made sure I had a big pile of comics beside my bed. Always.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Always.
That's great, especially since it sounds like you had a strained relationship with Dad. So the fact that he went out of his way to make sure you had a happy childhood in those sort of environments is
and and Dad would have the odd drink when he went out with friends and stuff, but Dad was never like his dad.
No,
it was amazing because the odds are if you're from have an abusive parent, there's a good percentage chance that you could end up being kind of like that, right?
Yeah, I think it's either one of two ways. You either push hard against it and go the other way, like you're not much of a drinker and you're not much of a drug person or whatever, or you just fall into the same paths. I think it seems in any story it's either one or the other. You either push hard against it or you just sort of fall into it later. But that's that's great that you had a good relationship with him. Was mom just mom in the mix as well when you were traveling around?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, mom worked a bit, but she was a stay-home mom. I got a little brother too, who's 6 years younger than me.
Oh, wonderful.
So she raised the two boys, and we moved all over. We lived in Borden twice. He ended his career in Dartmouth. Where else do we live? Cape Breton. We lived in Sydney. Up in Tidney Mines. Yeah, used to go from the PMQs to the. See, my father was a Perry, a phys ed instructor.
Yeah.
We'd walk from the PMQs over to the pool.
Yeah.
And we'd have coal dust all over our feet. So we'd have to go into the shower stalls and spray all the coal dust off, before we went to the pool.
It's like a testament to just purely Nova Scotian with your story. It's like all the different elements of all the Nova Scotia stuff.
Yeah, and Dad met Mom in Cornwallis.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, met her in 68 or 69, I think. Yeah.
Wow, very cool. So, when you were a kid, like touting around those comics with you, what comics were you reading? Like, what were your favorites?
Spider-Man, Captain America, Superman.
Yeah.
A lot of Spider-Man stuff mainly, but Magnus Robot Fighter.
Oh, wow.
Son of Stone. All the stuff you'd buy at the what were those stores called? You would take novels and comics in and exchange them. Something exchange.
I don't think we have one of those here.
Yeah, there was one here in St. John. I forget what it was called. Anyhow,
Wilkie's.
No.
It was, that was the big one in Halifax. Everybody always talks about.
I remember Wilkie's. That was on Roby, wasn't it, at one time?
It was way before my time, but people talk very fondly of it.
Yeah, Roby's.
Yeah.
So the comics like that, Spider-Man, Marvel team up, X-Men. I hated. I never cared for the X-Men at all.
Really?
Until I found an issue of Wolverine at the outdoor flea market in Dartmouth. It was issue, I think, 3 of the limited series. It was all beat up. I'm like, who's this?
The Chris Claremont one?
Claremont and Frank Miller. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm like, this guy's awesome. So I went and bought my first ever X-Men comic, issue 171. I think Rogue was on the cover. No, Wolverine's on the cover running. I think Rogue's in the background. Mm-hmm. That was like the first X-Men comic I ever bought. And I was hooked, buddy. I was hooked.
It's amazing because everyone has their sort of favorite runs of X-Men, I think, depending on when they got into it. Like what the creative team was, and also what the team and the characters that made up the team were. And those are usually always the favorite X-Men. Mine would probably be that Jim Lee run, like when the cartoon was out on Fox in the 90s, like that core group when they sort of held it up that way. But the old Claremont stuff is amazing. Like God Loves, Man Kills, all those old storylines are fantastic.
Oh, that's a great graphic novel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the basis for X-Men too, basically.
Yeah. For me, it was Claremont and the John Byrne run.
Oh, Byrne's a guy that I've always liked, but have recently been like really going back to read a lot of the stuff that I never read, or like really doing deep dives into his work. Because as a kid, I was obsessed with his She-Hulk run, which is really weird to be like, I was like 10 or 11 and I'm reading She-Hulk comics, like, and laughing, at these books because they were so funny and they broke the fourth wall and they were super, super like accessible and a real joy to read. So I've kind of like, and I've been picking up, they've recently been re-putting out his Man of Steel stuff, like that whole Man of Steel run he did when they reintroduced Superman after the Crisis of Infinite Earths. Yeah. And like his Fantastic Four run, I got the first volume of the omnibus for that. I've got his Thing miniseries. I've been really like just grabbing everything I can because I really enjoy it. It's just fun, old school comics that have something to say, that aren't too heavy handed, but also like have enough subtext to really, really make it something that says something, it's like it's a real message.
Have you seen his stuff that he posts online for free, the X-Men stuff?
No. I know he kind of like in later years, he got a big crabby online and stuff, wasn't he? Like,
yeah, a little crazy, I think.
Yeah,
a little crabby.
I think it's a bit of being bitter, like because the
industry
industry kind of moved on without him, and he doesn't like that.
But he's got a run now. I don't know how many issues of X-Men he's kind of kept going, and it's free. You can track it down on, I think it's Burn Robotics is his website.
Mm-hmm.
You can track it down on there, and it's amazing X-Men stuff. It's basically, if he had kept staying on the X-Men, what he would have done with the series.
I'm surprised he's legally allowed to be putting this out.
Well, he's not charging anyone for it, so it's free.
Okay.
And I guess Marvel's been saying, listen, let's work something out and let's get this out there.
Yeah.
And Burn being Burn, nope. Nope.
Well, he went on to do like Next Men and try to do kind of his own thing with it later on. Not like the X-Men per se, but like his version of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, talk about like a classic creator that put some amazing, like the Fantastic Four stuff he did. All that stuff was beautiful. Like Jim Starlin stuff is up there for me as well. Yeah, I'm a huge Jim Starlin fan. All right,
I got the limited series there. The Warlock. It was redone when they had the new paper and stuff came out. Yeah, I've got the 6-issue series there.
Yeah, anything Infinity Gauntlet. Like I've always been a big fan of the Infinity Gauntlet stuff, and Thanos was always my favorite villain. So as a fan, to watch Avengers and see him show up, and then get to where we are now, where we've had such a, him feature so heavily in movies. And if you would have told me, I don't know, 15 years ago, I'd see Thanos in a movie, I'd be like, you're crazy. Like, no way. Like he did such an obscure Marvel thing. It would never make, you know what I mean? I can imagine them making a movie out of it, but to make him the prime villain in 20 something movies, really, it's really cool, man. It's a fun time to be a fan.
So he's one of your favorite villains? Yes.
He was my favorite. Thanos is, yeah.
You know what? I got his first appearance.
There's someone I know that was selling it and I didn't buy it, but I'm wishing I had. I'm wondering if she still has it. I should look it up.
I have it. It's
Iron
beat
Man.
up. It's only probably a 1 or 55, I think. It's only a 1 or a 2, maybe a 3 ranking. It's got some pen marks on the cover and everything, but I mean, it's his first appearance.
I have a few early appearances that people have given me over the years, like a second or third appearance, but I don't have that one yet. So I just always thought, like, his villains in comics, I mean, Dr. Doom has always been fairly, are typical in that he's, wants to take over the world and all that sort of stuff. But Thanos always had such a much more interesting motivation, like a warped sense of love towards the embodiment of death and like killing half the universe just to impress her so she'll be with him. Like, seems way more of a interesting story for villain to me than just the standard I want power, I want to rule the world or whatever. So it's very Shakespearean. I don't know. It's something much different.
Absolutely. He's got a game plan, but unfortunately death won't love him, which is really,
I know. And then the tragedy, exactly. And then the tragedy that when he eventually essentially becomes God after assembling the Infinity Gauntlet and the gems, he's so far above her that she can't be with him then either. So, like that doesn't matter which way he goes. It never works out for him. So
poor guy.
I know.
Poor guy.
Poor guy. The heart bleeds for Thanos. Awesome. So what was after high school? What was the next step? Was comics always the end game, or is it something they fell into later? Or writing in general, not just comics, but
so moved to St. John in '89. Was dating Stacy. I was kind of always dabbling in art. Mm-hmm. My father's a really talented artist, and my mother's a painter.
Oh, really?
So I got a bit of art in me, and I tried to break in the industry in the '90s. I sent stuff to Marvel, and I sent stuff to a few other companies, and I thought, this stuff is awesome.
So when you were doing that, was it the kits that you would get from them?
No,
or was it just sending in scripts?
I was doing my own 11 by my 11 by 15 pages, I was sending in my art. I said, this is it. So I do the paneling on the page and do the story. And I thought, this is the best stuff, man. They're going to hire me in a nanosecond. It was pretty freaking crappy, brother. It was really bad.
Yeah. Did you get letters back, or did they just no answer?
Yeah, no, I got letters back. Yeah, letters back thanking me, but they weren't hiring right now, and this and that. So I said, oh, well, I kind of just put it aside. And then in 99 or 2000, CrossGen Comics started.
Mm-hmm.
And they were doing a talent search.
I remember that. I remember that. Wizard Magazine was all over it.
That was it. So I said, I'm gonna send some writing in. Because I dabbled in writing too, but nothing big. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna send some writing in. Well, shit, don't I get an email and a letter back from Barbara Kessel?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I got it here somewhere. She said, listen, she says, your paneling and your page setup, really, really good. She says, you know, I think you're quite young though, right? And I said, well, yeah, I'm like 20 years old. 21. Yeah. She says, you got to read a lot more. And she said that your dialogue sounded too staged.
Okay.
So basically she says, read your dialogue out loud. And if it sounds weird or corny, it's because it's weird or corny. Yeah. So that was a great piece of advice. So I sent her another sample. She thanked me again, but they were going down a different route. But yeah, I talked to her via email, I don't know, 3 or 4 times after that.
Wow.
And it really got the juices flowing that I wanted to do this for a living. So I started sending other stuff around. I've sent stuff to probably 24 companies. These guys that you meet online, they're going to start their own company, do this, do that, and it always fizzles out. Nothing ever happens. Right?
Yeah.
So anyone who could ever produce actually even produce one comic, like they're A1 in my book.
Yeah.
You know, like for an example, this comic right here.
You know, and I had a feeling you were going to pull that out when you said that.
I got your autograph on it.
I know. That's a bygone era for that one.
I love it.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, I gave it up when another guy started putting out a comic called Humbug. Same title, same name, same everything. And it's the exact same storyline. Basically, they just like made Scrooge younger and did steampunk. You know, so and he was putting it out through some third party thing, but it was so close to mine that I always kind of wondered if he got a copy of it that maybe I handed out at a convention or something. I really can't say that in any way that, you know, would be legally binding in any sense, because, you know, whatever. But it does it and I doubt it took off in a huge way because I haven't heard of it since. But I remember it was listed in Diamond for quite a while, so it might still be going. I don't know.
Wow.
But I am getting pretty. I've been saying this for a little while now that I'm starting to feel really guilty that I haven't done anything lately. So I want to do something soon. I think at least get the ball rolling. At least, you know, start something. I have a couple ideas.
You got to find the time there, Renaissance man.
Yeah, well, you know, it's like COVID right now. I should be, you know, you think I'd be writing multiple books with the amount of times we've had. I've had a year of like a lot less wrestling and acting and other stuff I do. I'm actually in a play right now. I'm on stage tonight.
I saw that.
Yeah, so
I had you in my news feed because I was always liking whenever you were posting stuff about wrestling and all that. I was always liking it, and then the stuff for these podcasts, I was always liking that. And then all of a sudden, I just realized when you said that email, I'm like, I haven't had any friggin' messages from André on my newsfeed for like months and months and months and months.
Yeah.
So I went back and checked, and I clicked and I wasn't following you. And I don't know what happened.
Oh, really?
I think you can only follow so many people. I don't know what happened there.
Oh, maybe.
But I lost you. I lost my father off my father was on my newsfeed. I lost him too, so I had to put him back on my follow.
Oh, wow. I think
he would have thought I was mad at him. I don't know what happened there. But so anyway, that's
like, all Hal's not liking again. My stuff.
That's crazy, man.
Wow. So yeah. CrossGen, that's an older cut too. I remember when that came out and they were doing all these because weren't they doing like the Robin Hood with a Y and those sort of books, or am I getting that confused with something else?
A little bit different. They were doing stuff with the they were doing a comic called Ruse. They were doing a comic called
that's the one.
Bart Sears was one of the big artists for them.
Yep. Yeah. He did the Brutes and Babes he used to do in Wizard magazine.
Yeah, in Wizard. Yeah. And it all resolved around this CrossGen Chronicles thing. I don't know exactly what all it was, but
yeah, wow. Well, that's really cool. They reached out and actually went through the effort to send that information to you, because so many ones just don't, you know, they just throw that in the garbage if they didn't. But the fact that they would go out of their way to respond with notes and, you know, and follow up is really cool. So you don't see that a lot, especially today.
The letter she sent me is like 3 pages long too. So
wow.
It's awesome.
And it means a lot to a kid that's trying to do something when you get some recognition from someone that's actually achieved something, in the industry. Like I get a letter from Dave Sim after I gave him a copy of my comic, and I think it was Humbug, and it was a nice letter. It was like it was he never emails. You have to send everything through mail.
Oh wow!
So yeah, so I had to mail him a letter, and then he mailed one back, and he had some really nice stuff to say. It was a really sweet dude. I know he's kind of controversial in the comics world, but to me, he was always a cool guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
So yes, so from there it's a cross gen. I tried getting with these other companies, nothing ever worked out. I did hook up with a guy from Florida named Tim Mitchell. He was starting up a comic company called Loud Comics, and I worked on one of his properties called Man Zero. It was kind of like a superhero type story, and I got three issues done scripted, and we had some pages done by a really talented artist, and I can't think of his name now. But that ended up falling through. Nothing ever happened with that. But that was fun to work on that because the comic almost got printed. Yeah.
So what was the first one to be printed?
The first one to be printed would have been Dreamland 2047 and that McSorley RCMP. It's a comic I did. Those were the first two I ever did. The McSorley one, there's the cover.
Oh, I remember those. Yes.
Yeah, that was the first one I did. That was a lot of fun. And then the Dreamland 2047 was me and an artist from the States created this one. It's supposed to be a 4-issue series. We've only got the first issue printed. I've lost contact with him. I've tried to contact him through Facebook again, but he's off the radar.
So how did you get hooked up with those two jobs? Like, was that just through blind sending out stuff like you're doing before?
Yep, I contacted Red Leaf Comics, and I spoke to a really nice guy named John Helmer. And Red Leaf Comics, they're producing a ton of comics right now.
Yeah, they're
doing really, really well. I contacted him, and I told him, listen, I CrossGen had to look at me, this and that, blah, blah, blah. I said, you got any writing gigs up? He said, yeah, sure. You want to try this? And I'm like, I'd love to. Then from there, he actually gave me a job, and I was doing some interviews for a while. And I was interviewing some creators. And one of the creators I interviewed was Darren Davis, who was the head of Blue Water Comics.
Mm-hmm.
They produce all those biography comics and stuff.
Yep.
So I interviewed him, and then for shits and giggles, oh, can I swear? Sorry.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, good. For shits and giggles, I contacted Darren a few months later and said, listen, you got any bios coming up that you need a writer for?
Mm-hmm.
He goes, you ever heard of Stephen Colbert? And I'm like, yeah. But I didn't really know who he was.
Really? Didn't watch Colbert Report at that point or Daily Show?
Colbert Report wasn't on, so he was on he was on Daily Show.
Okay.
And I really didn't know who he was. The only thing I remembered was he gave a little spiel once about Dungeons and Dragons and this one senator being a cleric and something like that. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
But of course I lied and said, oh yeah, I know all about Stephen Colbert. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, do you want to do his biography? I'm like, yeah, okay. So I did that. Took about 2 months. But zero edits. He did 0 edits, buddy.
Really?
He did not one edit. I set up the pages. I designed the cover, the blurb on Amazon.
Yeah.
The blurb that's worked is done by me as well. I did the whole kit and caboodle. And it was a blast.
Was the Colbert Report out at that point when you did that?
The Colbert Report was just coming out.
Because there's stuff in that comic that is from the Colbert Report, if I recall correctly. Like, because the bears and the other things that were like the things he was always afraid of, or like his enemies or whatever. Because I remember seeing that and thinking, and that reminiscing, because a running gag was that he was terrified of bears. So I remember seeing, and that sort of thing. And he's always making an enemy out of them and all that sort of stuff.
Yes. So yes. It was the Colbert Report was on, but he was going over to the Tonight Show, or no, but the Late Show, whatever Tonight Show. Yeah. Yeah. So it was before just as he was swinging over to that. In fact, we did do one edit. While the comic was getting done up, the Boston Marathon incident happened.
Oh wow, really?
So I wanted to stick a panel in there, just because. So that Boston Marathon panel that's in there, that was something I threw in at the last minute.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that. It's been a while since I went to refresh the book, but I actually couldn't find it today when I was looking for it. So I might have to grab another copy from you next time I see it.
I've got plenty, brother.
Oh yeah, how many do you have?
I don't know. 30, 40 still. I haven't received it. I haven't received any money from the comic yet. I think they have to. He had to make a plateau first.
That's been out for quite a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, but yeah. I think the time they did it. I mean, I got like 5 minutes of fame. I didn't get 15 minutes of fame, but I got 5 minutes.
Well, you're still due 10 more then.
Yeah. I'll do 10 more minutes someday.
So, did you ever hear any feedback from Colbert himself about it?
No, not a thing.
Really?
I do know that my understanding was Darren's people had to get a hold of Colbert's people to make sure we could do this, and they weren't going to get angry with us and such. But I've never ever heard whether he's read the comic or not. Not even to this day, I have no idea.
Really, you think especially when he was doing the Colbert Report, because it was the whole thing was predicated on this sort of right-wing character that he created that was always making everything about him. So you think a comic about him would have definitely checked his radar like pretty early on.
Yeah, but
so where were the information that you got when you made that come from? Like, did they provide everything to you as far as his life story went, or is it just reading stuff about online or?
Online, and one of the best sources I found was his interview with Oprah Winfrey.
Oh yeah, right.
Brilliant. I got a lot of stuff that I know. Before Darren asked me please not to use Wikipedia, because I guess some of his writers before had used Wikipedia for a lot of their stuff.
Oh really?
And a lot of that's inaccurate.
Wow.
So I did a hell of a lot of research for that.
Because he's fairly open about his history when he talks. Because I watch. Actually, The Late Show is the only show I watch as far as those shows, and The Daily Show, and Last Week Tonight. So mainly just to keep on touch. Yeah, you keep on touch with what's going on in the world in sort of a funny way. And I've always liked Colbert, so I definitely gravitated towards that one when he took over, and enjoy it. Like the segments and stuff's really good. But like his father and his brother died in an accident, right? Car accident when they were
When he was quite young.
Yeah, and then so and he comes from a big family, and he's really Christian and. That sort of stuff. So some interesting stuff in there, and it definitely would lend itself to a fun comic. And he did it in a really fun way. I enjoyed the sort of the enemies trying to cancel him and all that sort of stuff. Was fun.
Yeah, the Joy. Yeah, they created the machine there to make the clones. It's called the Joy Machine.
Yeah,
which is actually an item he actually uses in his writers roundtable that he has.
Yeah.
They actually call that the Joy Machine. So
I was able
to find the information and I incorporated that into it. So
it's really cool. Well, I hope someday you can get some I don't say vindication, it's not validation, I guess, from him, because I'm sure he's probably seen it. He must have.
I got the year after I did the comic, I got an invite to New York Comic Con.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow.
Just as a walk around guy. Now I wouldn't have my own table and stuff.
Yeah.
But I was invited in as like a creator vendor, not a creator vendor, but some sort of creator thing, and they would have gave me free access for the weekend. No table, but I would have had a lanyard and everything, but I couldn't afford it. We were punching the numbers and it would have cost us like $1,200.
It's good.
Just didn't have the money to do it. So
yeah,
it never happened.
Well, I'm sure
they invited me the year after too, and I apologized again. I said I just don't have the funds right now.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Someday. For sure, yeah, but I'm sure the opportunity will come again. So
local's good.
Yeah, I mean that's where we met, I believe. Probably at the St. John. Was the St. John one? I'd assume. Was it? Did I meet you before that one, or?
You know what? I think it was. Like
decaf, maybe, because you're hanging out with Andrew.
I think it was this. I think it was the second. I think it was the second HalCon or third HalCon when I bought the comic from you.
Oh yes, probably so. I was at the first one. I've been in most of them except for they've gotten so big now that it's like a raffle that if you get in to have a booth or not.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the first one was at the what was the building it was at? It wasn't where it is now, but
World Trade Center. There.
Yes, yeah, it was where it was the first year.
Yep, I was there for the first 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I was security the first year, and then I told Jen Lamb that I was a writer as well. She's like, "Do you want a table next year?" I'm like, "Yes." So I owe a lot to Jen Lamb.
Yeah, I heard she stepped away from it, which is
she did. She was awesome. I think she had a lot on her plate too, so she's got a great job now, and she's an overall good person. I've never had an issue with her. She's just awesome.
Yeah. She just seemed
Shirley Jollymore, Sam Bonin. They were I worked with them. I know as well.
Sam. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're awesome people.
Yeah, Sam's sister Paula she moved to Truro a while ago. She's working at Stanfield's. I think she's gone now. I think she got a position somewhere else, but I used to see her around sometimes at nerd stuff. So
right on.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So what came afterwards for writing? Beyond
from there,
Yeah.
You know what? I got this shit. I got stuff written down. Oh, I had an offer to. This might have been just before the Colbert. I had an offer to do an animation spec script.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What was the project?
It was called Green Garden Gang. It was a kids cartoon.
Okay.
It never got produced, but this company, Wet Sand Animation, run by a fellow named Brian Finley, who's now living in the St. John area, really talented guy. Worked for Walt Disney and all those other places as an animator.
Wow.
Really brilliant guy. He had this company, and he said, "Listen, I need a spec script, for the first 3 minutes of this cartoon. Do you want to give it a shot?" So I did, and it worked out fine. I saw some sample pages and everything, and then you know how things happen there, André. His company went under, and it never got finished.
That's the worst.
And in this time too, like between this happening, I contacted another artist who had been doing some work online and stuff, but nothing comic wise really, named Freddie Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Freddie was big for DC Comics doing Captain Atom and stuff like that.
I remember him. He did Robin too, like a really big run on Robin, didn't he? Yeah, Nightwing maybe. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
because I was reading those books at the time. A roommate of mine was really into them, and I remember reading them like when he was done with them.
Yeah, I contacted him and I said, "Listen, if you're not working anything now, do you want to maybe try and work on a comic together and see if we can, get found?" So I sent him some samples, and he liked it. He said, "Well, yeah." He said, "But I'm in the process now of getting my website hooked up, my first ever website. And we'll see what happens from there." Well, shit, he got his website up and running, and 2 months later, he gets freaking hired by DC Comics. So our little gig fell through.
Yeah,
and that happened later on with another artist named Nicola Scott from Australia.
Mm-hmm.
She was doing a cover for a comic called The Watch out of Australia. And I contacted her. I said, "Listen, I love your art." I said, "Do you want to try and work on something?" I sent her some samples. She liked the samples. She said, "Listen, I'm going to my first ever Comic-Con, and I'll contact you when I get back. I'm going to see if I can find some work." She gets hired by DC Comics. So I had two gigs lined up with two different artists, and they ended up getting hired by DC.
Well, maybe you're like the good luck charm. Maybe you're the the X factor that's getting these people hired for the big companies.
That's what I tell Andrew Clark. I said, we got to do at least one more comic together, Andrew, because once we do one more comic, I said, you're in. Marvel's. I
was going to say, can you ask me to do something with you so I can get hired by them too?
Unreal, eh? Yeah,
that's amazing.
Wow. Instead of a stepping stone, I'm more of a bouncing board, I guess. Yeah,
you're like a diving board. They spring off you and they're gone.
Yeah, it's too funny.
That's amazing.
So I did a few other comics. What the hell did I do? I did a few more with Red Leaf.
Mm-hmm.
But
so the McSorley one, was that an invented character, just an RCMP officer, kind of like a modern day Sam Steele sort of thing, or
kind of? He is the whole thing behind him is it takes place in World War II.
Oh, okay.
Just prior to the war starting. And this hero McSorley becomes the Leaf, the Golden Age Leaf, and he ends up fighting the Nazis in World War II.
Oh, okay.
Then when he retires, his son becomes the Leaf,
mm-hmm.
and he fights the separatists and all that in Canada in the
4th
70s and 80s, right? Yeah.
Oh, what, like the Quebec separatists?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I was going to say, that's hilarious.
And now the newest Leaf
punching Lucien Bouchard in the face.
Yeah. the
Hitler picture, like the classic, America Hitler photo.
I never thought of that. That'd be good.
That's hilarious.
And the newest Leaf is the grandson, and he wears like an armor. It's kind of like Guardian's armor. I almost said Vindicator. Guardian's armor. And he's like
Guardian of the Alpha Flight group.
Alpha Flight, yeah. And he's got when he flies, he's got like his cape kind of like it's like a leaf, which is kind of drives me.
Oh, that sounds really cool.
But I did an issue with that. That's the issue that Andrew and I did together, and that was a lot of fun. That was a blast to do.
So when did you hook up with Andrew? Because like I've always seen you guys. Like it's when I met you. I feel like the next time I saw you after that, or maybe the third or fourth time you were with Andrew. Now I always see you guys together.
I know he's poor me, eh?
Yeah. Those of you listening, I'm referring to Andrew Clark, who is I think our second or third guest on the show. So, yeah.
Awesome.
So, do you guys just connect at cons or?
The second con I was at. The first con I got invited to. The first one I got invited to HalCon, I didn't realize I had a table.
Oh.
So I walked around with my stuff all weekend, not knowing I had a table.
I just wonder why this Hal Hilden is at his table.
Yeah. So the year after that, I had a table, and I was a couple tables down from Robert Maillet, which was really cool.
Oh yeah.
Man, he's a big dude.
He is.
I had Nick and Danica.
Oh wow.
On my right.
Excellent.
So that was pretty cool. I asked Jen. I said, "Listen, I'm looking to find an artist. Do you know any guys in the area that are artists that you know of?" And she gave me 4 names, and Andrew's was one of the names. And he was the first name I picked to contact. And I didn't contact the other 3 guys. That was it. I just contacted Andrew, and he's been stuck with me ever since.
You got a ringer from the start. Andrew's great.
Yeah. Oh man, he's awesome.
Yeah, he's all like, you meet a lot of people doing these things, and some are pretty full of themselves, and some are just cool people. And he's certainly one of the cool ones for sure.
He is definitely cool. A little too hard on himself, I think. He really is.
A little bit, but I really enjoyed our conversation. I learned a lot about him. I love the idea that his father just came to the priesthood way later in life, and you just sitting around the dinner table one day, and he's like, "I'm gonna go become a priest now," and they're like, "What?" It's just such an odd story. You don't hear about it like that anymore, and it's just I just thought that from some part of that story just really tickled me, and I still think about how if I as a teenager was sitting around the table, my dad just said, "I'm going to go be a priest now," I think. How to left field that would have been, and how strange that would have been as a teenager to kind of experience that. So.
And what's even funnier is Andrew's an atheist, which is even funnier. So
yeah, I am too. So it's totally just to be okay, I guess, follow your dreams, I suppose.
Worship the giant spaghetti monster, I guess.
Well, if I did worship anything, it'd probably be that spaghetti monster.
Yeah.
For sure. Doesn't seem any more ridiculous than anything else.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, I did a issue of Beetle Girl with a local artist named Jason Wallace, and that was a lot of fun to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the most recent one I did was a little 4-pager Jack and the Beanstalk, and that was with an artist named Monique Monoton. I don't know whether you heard of her or not. She's been around for ages in the New Brunswick area. Yeah, really talented. She's been to cons. She was at the Fundy Fan Fest.
Yes,
right across from me, actually.
I think I must have met her. It's not singling in really tight, but we should talk more because I've been going through the list of associates I know for future episodes, and the female side of things is rather short in my Rolodex. So I'm very interested in talking to more women that are related to comics and stuff. So
I will send you a list.
Yeah, please. I'd love to talk to her. Anybody related to comics, big or small, I'm happy to talk to. So
I did that comic with her, and actually, the idea was a fellow named Jimmy Hashi. Jimmy Hashi.
I know Jimmy.
Yeah, Jimmy's been he's been an anchor in the comic scene in St. John since at least the 70s.
Yeah, he'd be good to talk to too. Actually, sometime I colored some comics for him in the past.
No shit, really?
Yeah. He got me to do some coloring because he's an artist too, so he didn't need me to do any art, but he was looking for a colorist, and I was like, well, I'm a graphic designer, I can color. So I did some covers and some interiors for some of his comics before.
I probably got some of the comics here.
I think it was the
Supernatural Agents.
Yeah, I've done some pinups for that, but there's a comic he put out that was there was a bunch of different stories in it. And I think I did a couple things in that, the cover and stuff. I can't remember the name right offhand. It was years ago now, many years ago. But yeah,
I probably got them here somewhere too. But yeah,
it'll come to me way after this interview's over.
And right now, the only thing I'm really working on right now is there's a really talented artist here in St. John. Her name's Jill Davis.
Mm-hmm.
And her and I are talking about working on either an anthology or something along that lines. I've got a script I'm working on. It's 100% dialogue, and I would love to see it storyboarded or done as a little comic book.
Mm-hmm.
And she likes the idea of it. So I just got to do the final chapter of it. She might give that a go as well. And, I mean, she's uber talented. She's one of the most talented artists I've ever met. She's really, really talented.
So what, growing up and reading, you mentioned, it was superhero stuff and a lot of the things you mentioned and the things I've read in the past. aside from the Colbert biography, are superhero related. So were there a writer specifically, like Claremont was he the top for you for as far as of influences of yours, like when you were reading?
Early on, was Stan Lee too early on.
Mhm.
But I didn't really appreciate Stan Lee and say Jack Kirby till later on in life.
Yeah.
Yeah. At first, I'm like, it was later on, in my 30s and stuff. I'm like, these guys are really good. But for me, it was Chris Claremont, Marv Wolfman.
Oh, excellent. Great choice.
Hands down, Marv Wolfman is my favorite. I like Jim Shooter's stuff he did on Legion of Superheroes back when he was a kid.
Yeah.
Just
When he was
incredible.
just establishing himself.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned those. I'm reading the new Stan Lee biography right now, the True Believer one that just came out.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's if you have a super fond memory of Stan Lee, this book is not going to reinforce that for you.
Gotcha.
Some
I've
people
heard.
have compared it to a hatchet job, and I wouldn't say that because everything he says is backed up. Like it's not like he's just throwing ideas out there or saying, and he's not like saying Stan Lee's some kind of a monster. It's basically just predicating the whole thing around the idea that Stan Lee took a lot of credit for things he probably shouldn't have, and that like the best thing that he created was basically the character of Stan Lee, and becoming a barker for comics more than actually like an established like creator. And they really go deep into some of the stuff with like Kirby and some of the issues over who created what. And based on the evidence they show, it really seems a lot like Kirby plotted it and then wrote and then put the whole thing together, and then Stan Lee just threw in the dialogue.
Wow.
Yeah, like for a lot of it, I mean, there's evidence to show either way, and if they can't prove something, they just say we don't know, which to me means a lot in a way. But I tell you, it's very interesting because it's the first time I've ever read. Like you hear stories in the industry, but it's the first time I've ever really read something that's really gone deeply into it, and it's an interesting topic. It would make for a great movie, that's for sure.
Yeah. Joe Simon as well is another one, isn't it? That
Right, yeah, and there's even mention of that because there's a point where I think recently in the part of the book I'm at, they're talking about when they were advertising the Captain America movie, the TV movie. I think the one when he had the stupid motorcycle helmet.
Oh God, yes.
And they were advertising it as created by Stan Lee, which he wasn't. But it was just because Stan Lee at that time was kind of becoming sort of an icon based around comics, and he himself was trying to kind of get beyond comics and become an established writer in what he considered more of a a mainstream way. Or a more respectable way, like books or magazines or something else. But and there was a lot of kind of friction with Jack Kirby on that, and page rates, and jumping back and forth between DC and Marvel. But it is interesting. I really want to read a Jack Kirby book now because he's been in quite a bit, and I'd be curious to see more detail on like when he went and did the Fourth World stuff, and then came back and did the Eternal stuff for Marvel and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
So.
Yeah, that's on my bucket list to read. I'll get around.
It's really good. I highly suggest it. But yeah, for old creators, like I going back, like because John Byrne was one for me. Steve Gerber was another one for me. Man Thing and Howard the Duck. So good. And Bill Mantlo, like his old Spider-Man stuff, was so good. Like all the Carrion stuff and all that stuff he created.
Who did the Werewolf by Night? Who was that?
That was Marv Wolfman. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Werewolf by Night.
I did an episode on him not too long ago.
Yeah, I went through and I'm like, I gotta watch that. First listen to that.
Yeah, it was fun. I try to sometimes pick things in the zeitgeist that are sort of in the forefront right now. If they're talking about characters popping up in a movie or this or that. So especially now, I did a bunch of stuff kind of with news around Falcon and Winter Soldier, and now that Falcon and Winter Soldier is such a big series. Like I did one on Zemo, I did one on John Walker, I did one on the Batroc the Leaper. Characters.
I fist pump watching that show. I'm like, yes,
I know.
Yes,
I'm very excited for tomorrow to see the last episode.
Oh, I know. I have goosebumps. Thanks, brother.
Yeah,
I hate when big hairy guys give me goosebumps.
Well, that's certainly me.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what, like, do you have a dream project in mind? Is there, like, I mean, obviously I assume getting to Marvel or DC would be one for sure, but is there, if you could pick the ultimate dream project, would it be Spider-Man?
Do you know what? For me, it would be this comic called Alien Legion.
I remember that book.
Through Epic. My favorite comic of all time.
Really? That is a deep cut. A very deep cut.
Yeah, my favorite of all. I mean, and I'm a superhero guy through and through.
Yeah.
But no, if I had to write any comic, it would be an Image.
Really?
Superheroes for DC would probably be either the original Doom Patrol or Blue Beetle, Ted Kord.
Yeah.
I love Ted Kord, Blue Beetle.
The original, like pre-Grant Morrison Doom Patrol, like the Elastigirl and all that stuff.
Yeah, the way back stuff. Yeah,
I'm a huge fan of Grant Morrison. He's probably my favorite modern comic writer. So.
Oh yeah, right on.
Yeah, that Doom Patrol, his Animal Man.
Yes.
I'm forgetting one of them. There was the other big Invisibles and those books that were coming up back then. The Filth. I mean, even his current Green Lantern stuff, I really dig in. But his run of the X-Men is another one that I hold in high regard as well. And All-Star Superman is the definitive Superman story to me.
And that who was the artist in that? That was
Frank Whiteley.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So clean. His pencils are so clean.
I know, and there's something I love his work because, like, I even have the original. A friend of mine gave me the original issues of his Flex Metallo series he did. Like, it was out of print. It was out of print forever. The only way we could get it was if you could find the single issue. So my friend gave them to me. They've since reprinted it because I think there was a legal dispute with Charles Atlas's family because of how close his origin was to the old Charles Atlas Hero of the Beach advertisements.
No shit. The sand in the face and all that. No
shit. Well, that was his origin in the comics. Was the kid same thing basically, but somebody sent away for the Flex Mentallo package and got, the Man of Muscle mystery package and learned it and became a superhero. But yeah, it was so close to Charles Atlas's stuff that I think there was some. I don't know if there was like an actual legal thing. I think it was just he wasn't allowed to reprint it or something. Is what the established the thing was. But I'm guessing they must have come to terms later on.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's comics are so interesting in the ways they touch the outer. I mean, nowadays they touch the outer world a lot because of movies and film and every TV. But in the old days, it's interesting the ways that they would sort of circle each other and certain things would come and go. Alien Legion is very interesting because like Marvel's Epic run had some really cool comics that a lot of ones that I always felt even back then I discovered later on were super cinematic or like had ideas that lent themselves directly to television or a movie or something. But they were created in an era when like nobody was really making adaptations of comics, so they were pretty bare bones.
Yeah.
Because like that was one, and the other one, the series that one of my all-time favorites that nobody ever really talks about or remembers. I want to say it was Peter Milgrim did it. It was called Strike Force Morituri. Do you remember that book?
Yeah, I do.
It was one of the it was such a cool concept. It would make for an amazing TV show or movie, but no one's ever touched it. And I'm really surprised by that. For sure.
Yeah, the Black Dragon was another one they did from Epic. Law Dog was a later Epic comic as well. But
Gru and ElfQuest too were both under Epic, which are both two series I loved as a kid as well.
I just sold my issue 1 of Gru at the flea market a couple weeks ago.
Really? You had issue 1 of Gru?
I grew, yeah. I got to make some bank, man. I'm not working right now, and money gets kind of tight. I just sold the issue 1 of Transformers last weekend as well.
Oh wow, that's cool that you're finding people in those markets.
Oh man, it's doing good. People spending some money now because they can't do anything else, right? So they're spending money on comics and collectibles.
I met Sergio Aragones at Montreal Comic Con. I gave him a copy of one of the coolest people in the world. I gave him a copy of my comic. It was I think it was Humbug, and then he said, "Come back tomorrow, and I'll talk to you about it." So I came back the next day, and him and Stan Sakai were both sitting beside each other at the booth, and I gave Stan a copy as well. And I came back the next day, and they both read it overnight and gave me a bunch of tips. So like I couldn't believe it. Like to go out of their way and read that book. Ty Templeton was another guy that did that, who was super cool.
Ty the guy, yeah,
Ty's amazing. I loved his work for Marvel. His Spider-Man Human Torch miniseries and his Howard the Duck series are both classic. Beautiful story.
He's funny. Oh man, some of the stuff he says too. It's like, man, I'm glad there's not a mic around here with what you're saying right now, Ty, but it's so friggin' funny.
Yeah, I remember talking to him for a while about comics and art, and he was talking about, because I was reading his blog, and he talked about his father, who used to be like a televangelist with Billy Graham. Charles Templeton, I think his name was. Yeah. So he and Billy Graham were like best friends, and when Billy Graham became Billy Graham, Charles was there and was like one of his right-hand man or something. But then eventually Charles fell out of being like out of that, I think he wrote a book called Losing God about how he's like, fell out of religion and explained why and all this other stuff. I don't know if he's a straight up atheist, but he certainly got out of the televangelist thing. But they made like a movie about Billy Graham's life, and Martin Landau was in it playing Charles Templeton. And they had this whole, like, within that religion, I'm not quite sure what one it was. They had a belief that all, like, if you're found or you find God, and then you're found and you're absolved for life. But if you walk away from it later, you were never really found. You were just like tricked or something. So the movie alludes that when Martin Landau, like when Charles Templeton like finds God, it's like maybe the devil. Like it's like it really, and then they also write into the movie that he like apologizes to Billy Graham on his deathbed about how he shouldn't have fell out of it and that he was right, and all this stuff that never really happened. So I was just telling him how interesting I thought that was, and we were talking about that and about sort of other things related to that. But it was really interesting. Just a really cool down to earth guy.
Only Billy Graham I ever liked was Superstar. I almost got you.
I almost spit my water out. He's the only one you need to know.
Yeah,
for sure.
So yeah, comic wise, I haven't been doing much comics. Like I got a couple in the works, but I was getting kind of down in the dumps. I had that interview last fall with I was one of like 600 writers that got chosen to be to do an online viewing, a submission with Valiant.
Oh, excellent.
And what the heck was her name? Can't even think of her name right now. Anyway, I got an online interview, and I never done one before. So the button was like, click when you're ready, or click. And I didn't want to interrupt because I thought she was talking to someone before me, so I didn't interrupt. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, we're 2 minutes into my friggin' thing. She's running late. All of a sudden, she clicked over and said that I should have clicked on right away, but I didn't know any better because I'm challenged when it comes to this. Then she's talking to me, so I start talking back to her, and she's like, I can't hear you. So we had to figure around. So my 10-minute window became 4 minutes.
Oh no!
But anyway, she had read the Colbert stuff I sent her online. She read it. She loved it. Fantastic. She said I was reading the dialogue, and I could actually hear Colbert saying it.
Yeah. So I felt that too when I read it as well.
That made my day. And she said, "You listen, send me some more stuff. Keep me in the loop of what you're doing." So I sent her another sample later on, but I never heard back yet. But I think once I get a nice big piece of fiction writing done, I'll probably send that off to her.
As you should, for sure.
Yeah,
I've noticed you've been doing like some short stories and stuff in some various anthologies that have come out.
Yeah, that was one of the things. Like, so I was getting down the dumps about comics. I'm 50 now, and I'm thinking I might have plateaued. Colbert might have been it, and that might be that's fine.
Yeah,
I'll take the 5 minutes.
Yeah,
and a buddy of mine, you probably know Peter Foote.
Yeah. Yes, I do. Yes.
Peter. I talked Peter into rewriting, because when I first met Peter years back, he told me that he'd doing some writing and threw it in a shelf or something. I said, why don't you? And I read some of it. I'm like, this is really good shit, man. You gotta do some of this. So he started writing again, and he kept saying, why don't you send some stuff in? I'm like, no. Well, he knew I was down the dumps, I guess. He says, why don't you submit to this company, Black Hare Press? They're looking for writers. Well, shit, I sent something in at the last minute, and they friggin' liked it, and they accepted it. So I'm like, wow. Then they accepted my next one, and then they accepted my next one, and then they accepted I had like 8 in a row before I got my first rejection letter. So I'm thinking I'm like king shit now of writing little drabbles and stuff, right? I'm like the man now. I'm going to be the next Stephen King. Yeah. I've had a couple since then that haven't gone through, but that's all right.
So, what would be the difference as to why they would reject something if they liked your stuff so much before? Is it just it didn't quite fit the tone they're looking for? Or?
Yeah, because a lot of their stuff is like really dark.
Okay.
And some of my stuff wasn't quite as dark as what they wanted. So
yeah. Do you feel where do you sit on the idea that you should like about tailoring your work to fit that motif, or do you feel a drive to do that sort of thing, or is what you write and that's it?
That's it. Exactly, because I'm really, really picky. At first, I was going to submit to everything they were setting up for. Mm-hmm. We got all these anthologies, and I was going to submit to everyone. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to submit to the ones that I like, that I get a nice feel with.
Yeah.
I don't want to just be sending shit out for the sake of sending shit out. So I was picking and choosing. And in fact, one that got rejected, I ended up sending it to another company called Macabre Ladies West. And it was a travel. And I sent it out to them. And I touched it up a little tiny bit. They loved it. They accepted it. It's been in print now.
Oh, awesome.
So that's pretty cool. So a rejection got accepted. So that was cool.
I noticed just skimming through the Black Hare Press stuff about how they sort of capital, or it was a Black Hare. Which one did the UFO one, the storming Area 51 one?
That was them. Yeah,
that was them. Yeah, so like they kind of keep a finger pretty tight on the pulse of what's going on culturally, and sort of tailor some of their work towards that.
Yeah, I did one of the chapters in that.
Yeah. So
yeah,
what was your like? Was it just people stories about aliens, or about the actual storming of Area 51?
Whatever you wanted to, but had to do with Area 51. So I went ahead, and my story was about this shyster that was basically buying caffeine pills, and he was going to sell them to all these friggin', he called them UFO tards, is what he called them. Okay, he was going to sell them all, but he was going to charge an absorbent amount of money for these pills and make a fortune and then leave. Because while they're storming Area 51, they're thinking they're going to be awake for 3 days. They're not. It's just a caffeine pill.
Yeah.
So that was what my story was about. So my story didn't really involve the aliens at all, but it was just kind of a side story, and it was fun to write.
Oh, awesome!
Really, really fun to write.
That's fantastic.
And my newest one, I just called Emerald City. It's a play on Wizard of Oz. Basically, Dorothy, the wizard, when he leaves the Oz, Dorothy stays and she becomes nasty.
Oh, really?
And all the good witches she imprisons. Well, one or two of the witches escape. And they go to our world trying to get people to come in and help them overthrow Dorothy. So I did one of the chapters in it, and mine's military based, boots on the ground.
It's like Oz's military.
It's a military guy from our world.
Oh, that goes into Oz.
Goes into Oz, and it was a blast to write. It was the first time I ever wrote a story, André, where the story took over.
Yeah,
I had it set. I usually write I do a plot synopsis, then I usually page everything out of how I want it to go, like almost a comic. Well, and as I'm typing the story up, it took a life of its own, and I was late sending in my first draft because it just kept evolving, and it would end up being like almost a totally different story at the end. But I'm so happy for it, and I want to show to them that was Iron Fairy Publishing. That's the name of the company that's doing this comic. Or this anthology.
Wow.
So yeah.
Sounds like you're getting a really good breadth of work under you. Like it's certainly for portfolio, for getting the word out there, for expanding on your abilities, but also showcasing what you can do. It sounds like you have a really wide range of things as far as that goes, because like between the Colbert comic to to that story, it's very far apart, but like it just shows your range, which is fantastic.
And that's kind of how I'm holding out hope that I can get into the comic industry through fiction.
Yeah. I've been dabbling with an idea for a while now, and maybe it's something we should talk about with some of the local people about trying to do some kind of like say a maritime series that's like maybe a graphic novel. It's like the Big Book of Ghosts, and like everybody just enters a 10 or 15 page ghost story, and just because there's so much talent here, and if someone could just sort of unify it in some way, I think you could have some really fun projects on your hands. The only thing is when you have that many people involved, it gets a bit mired when it comes to who sells what or who gets what. But I think you could probably figure out something as far as copies people can sell or do that sort of thing.
Because just in St. John alone, you interviewed Peter Bro. You interviewed Peter.
Yep.
Awesome guy.
Yeah, Peter's great.
You got Jimmy Hashi, you got Paul Beal, Peter Bro, Jill Davis, Jenny Gondon. You might have met Jenny before. She's been at ECC a couple times.
Jenny, what's her last name?
Godin? Jenny Godin.
Gaudin or something?
Godin. Yeah, Jenny. Really tall.
Yeah,
girl.
I think I remember.
Yeah, really talented artist as well. Monique, Jason Wallace, an artist named Donald Wilman who's quite talented. Stephen Saymond, Willie Reed, Barry Kincaid's kind of an older fellow, but he's done some stuff in the past. Brian Finley. There's a whole friggin' cornucopia of talent just in this area alone. Then you throw in Nova Scotia, and then you throw in PI. It'd be nice if we could almost even form something, but maybe
it's a matter of just getting the right heads together. So maybe we should try. Because, the older I get, the more I realize that if you don't start now, you're never going to start. So you really just, if you have an idea, you really just got to run with it.
And with our maritime background, a ghost anthology books would be just awesome.
Yeah, you could do do a ghost one, do a monsters one,
Absolutely.
And then if you want to go back to a ghost volume 2, there's just, and if everyone does a 10, 15, 20 page story, I mean, you can fill up a book pretty quickly. And it'd be fun, it'd just be a good, fun thing to do, I think.
Yeah.
Probably do well.
Yeah, just the talent. The talent I see is just incredible. Going to the conventions like ECCE, I've been to CaperCon and a few others. Like there's so many talented people, and I've seen some artists like Andrew. Here's Andrew again. I've seen some art from like guys from like the 90s and early 2000s. Andrew's art is better than them, and yet they were published in Marvel Comics and DC, and I'm like,
I think
it's who you know too. Sometimes I really do.
I think too, and I think sometimes there's a time crunch. I think sometimes there's so many things involved, especially with the big comic companies, that like factors that go into that it's hard to. Because I've read comics from that era, like I have the Spider-Man Clone Saga, like the omnibuses, and I'm flipping through some of that. Not to name names, but there's some art in that that's truly terrible. Like truly, proportions are off, perspectives off. Just everything is weird. It doesn't look right. And you're like, and I wonder if it's because they're just cranking stuff up for time so fast, or if, that's just the way the artist style is. And I don't normally like to comment too much because, art's subjective and everybody likes it for different reasons. But some of them it's just truly abhorrent. And you're like, if this guy can do this, then like, you're right. Like a guy like Andrew or anyone else, people I've met in my travels, I've been like, well, there's no reason they couldn't.
Yeah.
But I think it's a lot of, like I know a lot of wrestlers that are just phenomenal that I'm like, you guys should be in the WWE or or AEW or one of the big companies, but they're not. And it's like, well, why, there are some people that you don't think are as talented get to this platform and other people don't. It's really just luck, I would say, more than anything, just knowing the right people and where to be at the right time.
And I would love if one of my pals who was, works professionally ever mentioned, I know this really handsome chubby feller that did a comic and it's really good. You should give him a chance. That's kind of like this crazy dream that'll never ever happen. But it's
no, it might,
in the back of my mind.
I would hold out. It's really the connections you make more than anything. I think in almost any industry.
Yeah, true.
You just got to get your foot in the door. It's all it takes, and sometimes that's the hardest door to get your foot into. But once you get it in there.
Yeah, but then we know how them open fractures hurt, though, don't we?
Don't drop a beam on it either. Yeah.
Sometimes the door gets slammed.
You'd be amazed. Like I listened to a podcast called "The Best Movies Never Made," where people just talk about movies that were almost made, were in production, or didn't quite make it, like sequels and all these other things. And they read the scripts and they talk about them, and they usually have the people that wrote the scripts or producers or industry experts talking about them. And there's so many projects that are just like the guys tell their stories about how they got in the industry, and it's just stories like yours. Like that's all it is. They knew the right person, they sent the right thing to the right person, they got the right opportunity, it just worked out.
I've been in contact. I talk almost every day with Stephen Butler.
What is it?
Marvel.
Oh, Stephen Butler, yeah.
He did some of the clone Spider-Man clone stuff, but he also did Silver Sable.
Yes, that's why I know him. Yes.
I talk to Stephen almost every day. He shows me some of the art he's doing and all this, and we chat. Like we're chatting now. We do this almost on a daily basis, every other day, just typing back and forth. And he's working on some stuff, and he's going to try some Kickstarter stuff. And I don't know.
Yeah, because he was big in the like '90s Marvel stuff.
Humongous. But unfortunately, Marvel's got a thing. I think when artists hit a certain age, they almost you're almost like shown the door.
Really,
Herb Trimp and all that. Herb Trimp.
He was so good. I have actually. I don't know if you can see the comics on the wall.
Oh yeah.
I have his last issue of the Hulk signed by him. I met him at a Comic-Con.
I heard he's a sweet guy too.
He was a sweet guy, really sweet guy.
I did a biography for him on our website there as well once.
But like Mark Bagley, he's still going for Marvel. He's been around forever.
Yeah. But they wanted Herb to change his style. They wanted Herb to kind of pick up a bit of the image style at the time, right?
Oh, come on.
And that was kind of why Herb kind of up and left. I'm not sure why Steve left, but I know Steve ended up working for a couple of years doing Sonic Hedgehog.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because his style was very reminiscent of Image, like, at that time. So it's interesting that, one guy got pushed out because he got to be more Image, and then the other guy that was more Image got pushed out later too.
Yeah. He's doing stuff now for Coffin Comics. Brian Pluto.
Oh, yeah.
Lady Death and all that.
Yeah,
He's doing a lot of stuff for them right now.
Yeah, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Evil Ernie,
Brian
Lady
Pluto,
Death, those comics.
Yeah, he lost Evil Ernie. He still got Lady Death, but he lost the rights to Evil Ernie.
Oh, really? Wow. Cool. So what's next? What's on the horizon for you?
Writing. Some more writing. An old friend from high school. We're playing online gaming every Saturday night.
Oh, yeah?
First time we started about a month ago, and because I haven't played D&D or anything in like a couple of years now.
Yeah.
So we get together, and he's a pretty talented writer in his own right, and we're throwing some ideas around, and we're thinking of creating like a fantasy world and doing some stories off that as well.
Oh, fantastic.
His name's Sean Corrigan. Yeah, pretty talented fella.
Very cool. I look forward to seeing where that's going to take you.
So yeah, working on that. I got 2 comics on the go. That dialogue story I'm working on, that like literally 100% dialogue. What a blast it is!
Yeah.
And if I can get that finished, and even if I can get some pencil scene on that, that's going to be great.
Is it like just the comic adaptation of My Dinner with André, or?
You know what? Actually, it was for Black Hare Press. They were looking to get three stories, and I went ahead and I was almost on it. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to submit it because I might go and see if I can get it submitted as a play.
Oh, excellent.
And I've never written a play before, but I'm thinking, you know what? This story would make a great play. It's called The Devil's Buffet, by the way.
Mm-hmm. I like the name.
Yeah, and
you happen to know a guy who does theater. I'd be happy to read it.
I know now. You could probably play one of the main. You could probably play the main character as well.
That'd be. Is it the devil? Because that'd be awesome.
I can't tell you.
Might his buffet.
I can't tell you right now because the story is not done. But
it's funny because in this play I'm doing right now, it's 6 short plays altogether, and I'm in 2 of them, and I directed one of them. And the one I directed is a script by one of the Coen brothers, Ethan Coen. And it's called Waiting, and it's about a guy stuck in a waiting room. And man, it's one of, like, I love the Coen brothers, so discovering that one of them had written plays was like a real joy to me, that I could direct one of his things. It's amazing. It's really, really good play.
Now, how is it directing for you? Is it awesome or what? Like,
I've done it before years ago for theater, but I've been doing theater since I was like 20, or 19. So it's 30. I'm 35 now, so 16 years. So yeah, it's been quite a while. I directed like a half of there was one play that was sort of an anthology play that I did one of the segments in, or 2 of the segments in. And there's another one that I did a full play of, which are both really fun. But I always want to do stuff that's like, a lot of the theater company I'm with, they do a lot of comedies because that's what people sort of like the most. But I'm always trying to push for stuff that's a little smarter, instead of just the normal farce where someone pretends to be someone they're not, and then everyone's running around and falling through doors and that sort of stuff. So this one really is that, which I really liked, but it also is funny. It's just like very Coen Brothers funny, which to me is the ultimate in, intelligent humor. But like there's a screen adaptation of Misery that I really want to do, a stage adaptation of the Stephen King book. And I've been trying to do it for years, but the rights have been bought up by some company in, I want to say England or something, like they're putting it on or something. So amateur places can't perform it for the rights. Wow. Yeah, because it would be really fun. Stuff like that is kind of what I'm interested in doing.
When I'm done Devil's Buffet, you know what? I'd love to send it to you. See what you think.
I'd love to read it. I'd have to.
If you wanted to turn it into a play, I'd be tickled pink, man.
I'm sure I probably could. We could definitely talk. This could be the start of a beautiful relationship.
It starts. It's kind of a comedy, and then a slow burn starts, and it's pretty harsh at the end, but
good.
It's got a bit of everything. I really want I wrote it because I want the people that are reading it or watching it. I want them to really feel. I want them to.
Well, that's what.
I want them to feel some emotions.
For sure. I mean, that's sort of the dream, I guess, of anything that any writer puts out there, to really hit home with someone. To me, any kind of art, like comics, movies, music, anything that makes you feel something, it's not a wasted experience to me. Even if it's discussed, as long as you feel something, like, then I think it's not a wasted experience. I've sat through a lot of bad movies that I've taken something away from because there's something in there that, that makes you feel something that I think you can file away and definitely use for some future creative endeavor for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing better than having people like a character and then by the end of the story disliking the character.
That's why Breaking Bad is one of the greatest shows of all time.
Oh, awesome.
I always say that about that show. You watch that show, you can understand every decision that guy makes. You're like, I understand why he did that. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I understand it. In his position, I probably would have to do the same thing. It's what else could you do? And then at the end, you're like, I don't like this guy because of everything he's done, but I've understood everything he's done the whole way. And they did a beautiful job of that. So like writing like that is certainly the upper echelon to me. Something that can really take you on a journey with the character for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me, Hal. This has been great.
This has been a blast,
dude. I'm super happy I could finally have you on.
And you know what though, I really kind of don't. I threw a lot of other names out there. I'm not one. I mean, I like talking about myself too, but like just person to person.
Mm-hmm.
This podcast thing has kind of scared me a bit.
No.
I hope it don't come off as an asshole, but
no, not at all. No, you sound great, man. Seriously.
But I like passing praise around because I didn't get to to where I think I am right now, which is pretty good. I mean, my name's kind of getting out there, but there's so many people that helped me get to where I am, right? So my wife, my daughter's like my toughest editor. Before I send any of my writing off, it goes past my 23-year-old daughter, which she's gonna be 23 this year. She's a harsh critic, man. She's a friggin' harsh editor.
Really?
Stacy, not so much, but my daughter Hayley, oh yeah, she lets me have it.
What does Hayley do?
Hayley's disabled right now. She's waiting for a hip replacement.
Oh wow! At 23, what happened? Did she get an accident?
She was born with it.
Oh, okay.
She was supposed to have the surgery a couple of years ago, but it got pushed off, and now COVID happened, and so she's waiting. So she's with us, and she's a talented writer and art. I've posted some of her art before on Facebook. She's a talented writer and artist in her own right. Way better than me.
Wow.
Way better. Yeah. So yeah, talking about myself, not so much. We'll talk more next time I see you. I'll give you that script. Yeah, we'll talk a lot more about wrestling.
Oh, absolutely. We could do a wrestling podcast.
Oh my God, Grand Prix it is, baby.
Well, I've met and wrestled a few of those guys over the years, so it's cool to have. I wrestled Lanny twice, and I talked to him quite a bit afterwards, like for a while. He's a really nice guy, super cool guy. Great person.
I played hockey once. Got scored on by Big Stephen Petitpot at an Irving hockey tournament.
Nice.
Up in Salisbury. Yeah.
Nice. Classic.
He came in over the blue line. He let a snapshot go and it hit my shoulder and still went in. And it hurt. And he's a big dude. Man. So imagine him on skates. He's like 2.5 inches taller, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Oh man. Incredible. Well, thanks again, Hal. This has been a real treat.
Right on, buddy.
All right.
And you know what? We'll actually meet up someday. Someday when I go down through Halifax, I'll swing by Truro and say hi to you.
You have to swing through Truro. you can't avoid it. It's on the way.
Once this COVID thing ends and you guys let us back into your province.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I don't fault our government at all because the numbers have stayed super low in our area, even when they get super high. Like there was 30-something cases today, and I haven't checked the update, but I'm sure they're shutting things down again for a while. So, they're pretty quick to do that when it happens. So, the other provinces are kind of out of control, but we've managed to keep a really good cap on it. I think it's because of that sort of hard work. So, but hopefully soon we're all vaccinated. We can all get back to some semblance of normality, and I'll wait by the highway for you.
And we'll be at a con together. Someday, buddy. Someday.
I can't wait. I'm hoping to do one of these live at a con with somebody sometime. I think it'd be really fun.
Grab Nick or Danica. That'd be friggin' hilarious.
I reached out to them, but I haven't heard back yet. I know they're busy, so maybe someday we'll be able to do that.
She just did a book as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm looking really forward to reading that. So.
Yeah. Listen, my friend, I'll let you go. I'll keep talking to you all day.
No, I could easily do it too, but
do me a favor? Stay safe, buddy.
Yeah, you too, man. It was great seeing you.
Absolutely.
And we'll talk because I think you and I should work on something sometime. Maybe a hoot.
I would love to collab with you on something.
All right, let's do it. All right.
Love you, brother. Take care.
Thanks, you too, man. See you later.
Right on.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
What a lovely talk. What a great guy. Hal Hilden is top class, man. Top of the class. Class act all the way. An incredibly talented writer, incredibly nice guy, and just a great cheerleader for local comics. Local comics, local writing, anything with local creators. He's always there to purchase books, to grab art prints, to talk industry with anybody that wants to talk, and just be a rallying force for creators in this area. And I can't thank people like him enough. And I can't thank people like you enough for tuning into the show. If you've been here for the whole year, thank you. You're beautiful. If you're just tuning in, thank you. You're beautiful as well. I can't thank you enough for the support you've given me. It's been a hell of a ride this past year, and I've really enjoyed it, and I hope you've enjoyed the journey as much as me. Be sure to tune in next week for the season premiere of Season 2 of the Graphic Histories podcast, in which I talk about Sharon Carter. But in the meantime, I just hope you have a great week. Stay safe out there. Case numbers are rising in my area. I don't know what they're like where you're at, but hopefully you're safe. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for supporting this program, for supporting me in all my endeavors. I can't thank you enough. It means the world to me that I have people out there that are interested, that are listening to the show and enjoy it. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. And I will see you next week.